These videos are made for the purpose of entertainment. These are not made to give you an excuse to harass the original creator. I do not condone the harassment or bullying of the creators featured in these videos.
My Pride is a popular YouTube animated series about lions by user Tribble of Doom. I've known about Tribble for a long time now. I discovered them back when they were making their series Cow of the Wild, which is about a cow joining a pack of wolves. At least that's what the description says. I don't actually think the plot had the cow in like 80% of the videos. But it's also been years since I've seen Cow of the Wild, so I don't know. And even at the young age of, I think I was 13 when I found this series, I thought it was awful. The animation was weird, the art for the animals was okay, the coloring was weird, the voice acting and the writing in general, also awful. So I didn't really pay much attention to Tribble for years after I first found their channel. Until December 1st, 2019, when a video by them showed up in my recommended My Pride Episode 1 preview scene. I was shocked and still remembered her series Cow of the Wild, so I decided to give this video a watch, curious to see how much they had improved since I last saw them. The art and animation improved greatly. The voice acting was still but overall I was impressed and intrigued. So I kept up with every episode of My Pride until season 1 was finished. And it was bad. My Pride is just really bad. The writing is just downright awful, and the only good thing about this series is Ghost. We stan Ghost. He's precious. 10 out of 10. Tangle is cool too. Nice little curly-haired lion man. But everything else is just so annoying and awful. It's literally just filled with ableism, homophobia, and sexism, which wouldn't be an issue if it wasn't written like trash. You can have bad things like that in your stories, but God, at least be semi-competent at writing things like that. God damn. I like the concept of the story. It reminds me a lot of Warrior Cats, and I love Warrior Cats. But the execution makes me want to rip my hair out. And Tribble tried to fit so much plot into 10 episodes that are all under 20 minutes. I just found myself growing more and more annoyed with the series as it went on, and I just needed to yell about it. I was originally going to write a review, but I came across a 2-hour-long video that reviews My Pride way better than I ever could. It's by Detective Calicos. I'll link the video in the pinned comment so you can go watch it because it is a very good video. So, instead, I'm going to rewrite the first season of My Pride. It has been a few years since season 1 ended, and Tribble and her team have not given any updates on season 2 just yet. The My Pride series Twitter has a post saying that the accounts will be dead until there's a season 2 update, and I haven't seen anything. I was also considering redesigning the characters, but I honestly don't feel a need to. The character designs are okay. The only two I would redesign are Nothing and Quickmane. It wouldn't be too crazy, I would just change up their scars a bit, because the way they look now is really ugly. It's just the way they're designed. It's just not it. And make Nothing's leg a little crooked since it was broken. There's no way it would have healed completely straight when they have no way of properly treating a broken bone. Now, I am going to have to make up a bunch of stuff to fill in for plot holes and such, with season 1 being the only season that's been released and the written version of the story being quite different from its animated counterpart, at least from what I've heard. I haven't read it yet. But because my knowledge is so limited on what will happen in the plot of the animated series, I have to base my rewrite off of assumptions I have. But with that out of the way, here's how I would rewrite My Pride. If you haven't watched My Pride, I personally wouldn't recommend watching it, but if you want to, the whole series is on Tribble of Doom's YouTube channel. If you don't want to watch it but still want context to who all these fucking characters are and what the plot is, watch Calicos' video reviewing the series. She summarizes the episode in the first half of her video. So go do that so you're not completely confused while listening to me ramble away. Trigger warnings: ableism, homophobia, sexism, child murder, general violence. This series is not kid-friendly, so obviously my rewrite is not going to be kid-friendly. While I'm not going into horrific detail, I'm still going to be mentioning some unsavory things. Oh, and obviously spoilers ahead for my pride. The series starts off pretty much the same. Sharp Tongue's telling the story of Suns, Azra, and Kansu. As Sharp Tongue is telling the story, she gets interrupted by Power Strike. She lays down with her mother and her cubs and tells the three to run off and play. Fire protests, not wanting to play games with his siblings, but he's still chased off by his mother, and the three scamper off as she yells after them to stay where she can see them. I was originally thinking about making Power Strike pregnant at the start of this series, so Farleap and Silent Stalk are Starmane's children instead of Quickmane's, because in the original, after Starmane is killed by Quickmane and he takes over the Pride, Power Strike, despite being pissed off at him for killing one of her children and her mate, crippling her daughter, and being very openly against him being the new main of the Pride, has his kids very soon after Starmane's death. And I mean soon after. Like, she must have gotten pregnant within the month. And I didn't really like that at all. I still don't like it. Why would you have this dude's kids when he killed your mate, kid, and crippled the other one? But I've managed to come up with a semi-decent narrative reason for Power Strike to have his kids other than that's what real lions do, which is how it's justified in the original series by mostly the fans, but I'll get back to that later when it's more important. We are now focusing on Power Strike and Sharp Tongue as they talk while the cubs are in the background. Sharp Tongue asks where Starmane has run off to, and Power Strike tells her that he is out fighting off another no-main that had come into the territory. Sharp Tongue frowns and says, "That's the fourth one this moon. They're getting desperate." And we get to learn that because of dry season, the lack of water has meant the lack of prey, and the no-mains are constantly trying to take over the Pride because they're all starving to death. But the Prides aren't doing much better. I'm kind of thinking as these two were talking, we're seeing snippets of the Pride itself, the few other lionesses and the cubs, and we get to see how skinny everyone is, just to show that they're not really doing good because of how bad dry season is this year. So we cut back to the cubs. Spark and Nothing are rolling around wrestling a bit while Fire is sitting off to the side, not paying attention to them, just kind of lying there, looking very annoyed. Nothing notices her brother off to the side and tries to get him to play with her and Spark. She jumps on him and he wiggles away from her and tells her to knock it off and leave him alone. He doesn't want to play their dumb games. Nothing still tries to get him to play with them, saying that they could play a game he would like, that being them being in a Pride and having to fight off no-mains, and they can all take turns being the main of the Pride. Fire scoffs and says lionesses can't be mains because they're too weak to lead a Pride, which Spark jumps to Nothing's defense, saying she could be a main if she wants. Before they can continue their squabble, Starmane returns to the Pride. He's a bit scuffed up and clearly worn out from the fight he just endured, but the cubs are happy to see their father and immediately start clamoring all over him, asking him questions about his fight and just being children. Power Strike makes her way over to Starmane and asks if he's okay. He assures her that he's fine. Spoilers, he's not. And that he chased the no-main pretty far away and left him pretty badly injured, so hopefully he and other no-mains will stay clear for a while. She nods, and now that he's returned, the lionesses can go off to hunt and he can watch the cubs for a while. He agrees and flops down. Nothing says she wants to go hunting with everyone, but of course she can't because she's too small. Power Strike tells her she could go hunting with them once she's passed her Huntress assessment and has gotten her Huntress name. And with that, the lionesses leave to hunt. Nothing is now excited at the prospect of getting her Huntress name and is bouncing around, wanting to take her Huntress assessment as soon as possible. Her father laughs and tells her he can't wait to give her her name. He's sure she's blessed by the goddesses and will do amazing during her exam when she's ready. Nothing is beaming, very excited. Now, if you've watched the original, you may have noticed that I said Starmane will be giving Nothing her huntress name. In the original, for those who haven't seen it, the hunt chief, the female hunting leader, gives the huntresses their names, which in this case would have been her mother. So, in the series, her mom names her Nothing. And I hate that for several fucking reasons, so I'm changing it. So that the male leader of the pride names the huntresses and gets to decide their worth to the pride, because it would just make more sense. This society is supposed to be a male-dominated one, where the male gets to make all the choices, has all the power, is the leader, etc., etc., but we don't really see that a whole lot, so I'm giving the main more power in their pride. Anyways, here is where I would take a little bit of a different route with this episode. I don't want Starmane to die right at the start. He literally dies 7 minutes into a 14-minute episode. It's a bit ridiculous. We get 5 seconds of these characters interacting together before Starmane is killed, Spark is killed, and Quickmane takes over the pride, and we get a 2-year time skip. Nothing takes her huntress assessment, and Fire leaves. Fire talks about in one episode how he always took care of Nothing after their dad died, and we don't really understand what their relationship was like before Quickmane makes Fire leave the pride. He's just there and then he's gone. I don't really like it. The pacing is just absolute shit, honestly. Maybe that's just me though? Everything about this show irritates me. This entire series feels like a Wattpad fanfiction written by a 12-year-old who just started writing, and not a series written by an adult woman who's been writing for over a decade now. Like, girl, how is your pacing and writing still this bad after nearly 11 years? My god, do better. So Nothing gets very excited and says she wants to practice for her huntress exam. She wants to be perfect, so she can get a really cool name like her mom. Spark is also excited and says he wants to help her practice. She agrees and asks Fire if he wants to help too. He scoffs and asks why he would help her prepare for her huntress exam. He is going to be a main. He doesn't have to worry about what huntresses do. She rolls her eyes and says whatever. Starmane tries to encourage Fire to join his siblings, but Fire once again refuses and trots a bit away to go sit in the shade by himself. Starmane looks concerned for his son, but turns his attention back to Nothing and Spark and watches them. Spark is currently trying to catch Nothing, pouncing and running after her, only for her to completely avoid him every time. She's very agile, dodging and weaving away from his attempts to catch her. Her skills remind Starmane of a more experienced lioness and not a cub. He's very impressed and very proud. Nothing is continuing to dodge Spark, but eventually turns on him and pounces. She pins him and shouts, "Gotcha!" Spark is taken off guard for a second before he smiles widely and praises his sister for being so fast. She's very proud, and asks what she should practice next. Starmane speaks up. Well, if you want to be a good huntress, you have to be able to jump pretty high to get some of the bigger prey out there. It's said in kind of a playful, teasing tone. He's just being a little silly, but also kind of serious because he's not wrong. Side note, have y'all seen those videos of lionesses trying to take down giraffes? That shit is wild, and sometimes very amusing to watch. I saw one video where they were just kind of hanging off the giraffe's butt, but the giraffe was just continuing to walk away like nothing was happening. It was very amusing. Anyways, Nothing takes this as a challenge and looks around to see if she could jump up on something really high up. When a breeze hits and a few leaves or grass blades float up above them, she sees this and gets down and leaps up off the ground, stretching a paw out to catch a leaf before falling back down to the ground. Her brothers and father are shocked because she got about 8 feet up off the ground. I'm being ridiculous with her jumping ability on purpose. We're talking about a fictional lion series where they have goddesses and curses and shit. Just roll with it. Starmane laughs. Well done, daughter. Truly you will be the best huntress in all the Pride Lands. We'll never go hungry again with your skills. And I believe I already have a huntress name in mind for you. Nothing gets very excited at her father's praise and hinting at her huntress name. She begs him to tell her, but he just laughs and tells her, no, it's going to be a surprise. Besides, we have a few more moons before your exam, and who knows, I might come up with something even better. She beams, excitement and pride swelling in her chest. I'm probably getting into a bit too much detail, but the point is, I wanted Nothing's skills to be showcased a little before she grows up, and to show that Fire is kind of distant and a bit of a jerk. We get a small little inkling of him being a jerk, telling his sister that she's not strong enough to lead a pride, but I wanted it to show more that he's the distant brother out of the three. He just doesn't really relate to his siblings as much and doesn't care to play games with them. And showing off Nothing's skills before she's crippled, because Power Strike tells her later in the series that she could have been her proudest achievement, but now Nothing is just a disappointment because she was crippled. If Power Strike thought that of our main character, then clearly she had some skills at a super young age. I would also just like to keep her skills after she's crippled, still have her skills be hindered but not gone, because it seems like in the series any skills she probably had as a child are completely gone when she grows up. Unless it's convenient for the plot, of course, but we aren't doing that in this rewrite. No, I refuse, because that shit's ridiculous. I've been trying to figure out how to include the story about Kyoga, Light, and Karabi that Nothing tells, and I think how I could include it still is Spark and Nothing keep playing for a while, Starmane watching but also glancing over at Fire, who is just sitting there still, looking grumpy, and occasionally rolling his eyes and scoffing at his siblings. And after a while, they get tired and retreat to where Fire is, and Starmane follows to flop down closer to them. Spark asks Fire if he wants to play a game with them. Fire says no, he doesn't want to play any stupid game with them. But Spark doesn't really back down. He feels bad that his brother is always left sitting in a quiet corner by himself. So he offers up a compromise. Kind of. Well, you don't have to do a lot. Sister and I can play Light and Karabi and you can be Kyoga. She doesn't really do anything in the story, so all you have to do is look kind of sad while we fight. Fire sputters and bristles a little bit, offended that he has to play Kyoga, and yells that Spark is being mean. In this version, Spark was not trying to be mean, he was just trying to find a way to include Fire. Starmane is confused and asks what they're arguing about, and we can get the scene where Nothing explains the story to their dad. I think that works pretty okay. Still includes the story we got in the original, and still includes the general interaction the four had. Now, here is where things go wrong. This is when Quickmane comes into play. As the Cubs and Starmane are distracted, Nothing just happens to look over and sees Quickmane hiding in the grass. She yells, "Dad, watch out!" Starmane quickly turns and Quickmane jumps out of the grass and attacks. Startled and scared, Fire runs off in one direction and the other two scramble away to hide close by to watch their father fight. Nothing is looking around, trying to spot her brother while Spark is watching the fight, whispering about how their dad has to win. He just has to. When suddenly, the fighting stops. Nothing looks back and sees her father lying on the ground, dead. Quickmane is now looking around for them. Spark, in a panic, tries to make a run for it, hoping to maybe find their mom, but of course Quickmane spots him. Nothing screams for her brother, but it's too late. Quickmane has already grabbed him and has just as quickly killed him. Because she screamed, Quickmane now knows where she is. This is where we change point of views. So instead of third person, we switch to first person and we are seeing things from Nothing's view. The camera is shaking a little bit, all we can hear is ringing. The edges of her vision are going dark and things are blurry. We see Quickmane walking towards her, paws bloody. She looks up at him when he's standing over her, grinning viciously, his face smeared in her father's blood. Then everything goes dark, and the next thing we hear is Quickmane screaming in agony. Back to third person, we get flashes of Nothing's claws in his eyes, teeth ripping into one of his ears, clinging to him as he swings around trying to get the cub off of him. He throws her off finally. We see her hit the tree that was nearby, hear a snap when she falls, and then blackness again. I do have a second idea for this whole scene. We either see her tearing into him, or this whole scene could just be a black screen for a few seconds, and what we see next is Nothing lying on the ground, bloody, and her leg messed up. And then we see Quickmane with the other lionesses, also covered in blood. So we either see what happens or we don't and are just kind of left with the feeling of what the fuck just happened until it gets explained by Quickmane that the cub attacked him and there's something seriously wrong with it. Both could work very well, I think. Nothing wakes up and we hear the ringing again, until she is fully awake and sees her brother Fire hovering over her, trying to talk to her. She sits up best she can and asks what happened, because she doesn't remember. He says he's not sure either. He came back having found the huntresses as they were coming back, and he just found Nothing lying on the ground and thought she was dead. They hear their mother grieving over Starmane and Spark's bodies. Fire starts to walk over to Power Strike, and Nothing tries to follow but quickly falls and cries out in pain. This causes Power Strike to look up and very quickly rush to Nothing's side. She's relieved that her cub is not dead, quickly looking over her when she actually registers that her daughter's leg doesn't look quite right. This is where we basically get a copy-paste of what is actually said in the series. What's wrong with your leg? It hurts when I step on it. Fire says something about Nothing being okay otherwise and that hurt is better than dead. And in the original series, it's kind of implied by Power Strike that hurt is most definitely not better than being dead. But no, we're not doing that. Power Strike is gonna be a good mom and not a stupid hag, cause we can't have both. She doesn't have to be the perfect mom, but in this series, she goes from caring mom to fuck you, daughter, I hate you because now you're a stupid cripple and you can no longer be the person I wanted you to be because of how worthless you are. It is such a fucking 180, and then they try to paint her as a kind and caring mother at the end of season 1, as if she didn't spend most of the season belittling and abusing her child because she was crippled by Quickmane. It's literally infuriating. I hate it. Anyways, she reassures both of them that of course her daughter being hurt was better than being dead. She was just worried because she is very seriously injured. We then hear Quickmane, very clearly upset and ranting. Power Strike picks up Nothing and joins the rest of the Pride. We see Quickmane and see the damage that was done to his face. One of his ears is nearly gone, his right eye is gone, and really his whole face with bits of his neck are torn up. He's pacing back and forth, clearly disturbed and panicked. He's talking about the cub that attacked him, how she was possessed by a demon or something, because the way she attacked him just wasn't natural. Her strength wasn't natural. There was something wrong with it. This is where Power Strike steps in and gets in his face and snarls at him to not call her daughter an it. She turns to Sharp Tongue and says they cannot allow this no-mane to lead the Pride when he was bested by a cub. Sharp Tongue hums and explains that they can't just chase him off because he bested Starmane in combat. The Pride is rightfully his. She gets closer to Power Strike and whispers something in her ear that makes Power Strike grimace, but nod her head reluctantly. Power Strike then asks the obvious question, should she just allow him to kill her other two cubs then? Sharp Tongue says no. Quickmane may have bested Starmane in combat, but he was then bested in combat by Power Strike's daughter. So this was a sign from the goddesses that her cubs have a right to be in this pride, and Quickmane and the cubs must coexist. Quickmane goes to protest, but before he can, he looks over and spots nothing. He stops, grumbles and spits out, "Fine, but keep that cub away from me. I don't know what's wrong with it, but it isn't natural." Power Strike snarls at him, ready to attack him, but Sharp Tongue steps in front of her and just shakes her head no. Power Strike turns back to her cubs in a huff, pissed off, but focuses on cleaning up her injured cub the best she can. Sharp Tongue joins the three, giving Nothing a once-over and telling her she was very brave for standing up to a no-main like she did. Sharp Tongue turns to Power Strike and says they should go give Starmane and Spark a proper send-off to Azra. We see Power Strike's face twist with grief before she nods and goes back to cleaning her daughter up. Fire has been sitting next to Nothing this whole time, looking at her leg. He's been quiet, thinking. Nothing asks her mom if she's sure that the no-main won't kill her and Fire. When Fire speaks up before their mom can answer, "Don't worry, sister. If he tries anything, I'll protect you." Nothing smiles. "Thanks, Fire. We can look after each other from now on." Fire scrunches his nose, but before he could say anything, Sharp Tongue says, "Enough. We must go and prepare to send Starmane and Spark to Azra." The last we see of this scene is Power Strike picking up Nothing and carrying her away, with Sharp Tongue following. Fire takes a second, but eventually follows along, and it fades to black. It's night now. The Pride, minus Quickmane, are gathered around Starmane and Spark. Sharp Tongue is giving a speech about how Starmane was a kind and fair mane, and he will be missed by his former pride. And his son, her grandchild, will be missed just as much. Then the lionesses roar, giving the final send-off for the two. Nothing is sitting next to her mother, staring at her father and brother's bodies. Before she looks up at the stars, tears forming in her eyes as she listens to the Pride. We end this episode with future Nothing's monologue about how she didn't really understand it at the time, but this day would change the course of her life forever. And that is where episode 1 ends. This isn't too drastically different from how the original episode 1 went. I don't think, at least. I just added some things, changed a few interactions, and fixed Power Strike and her bitch-ass attitude because, again, you can't have her be an abusive twat to Nothing throughout the whole series because of something that is out of her control, and then have her say, "Oh, but I love my daughter and care about her so much." No, fuck you. That's not how that works. If you care about someone, you treat them like you care about them. You can't abuse someone, treat them like complete shit, and then come out with this manipulative, egotistical, "Oh, but I love you" bullshit. You can't have Power Strike constantly belittling and abusing her child, going so far as to name her Nothing because she's good at nothing and is worth nothing, and then have Power Strike still claim to love her daughter. Like, no. If you wanted Power Strike to be a redeemable character, she shouldn't have been written the way she was. Like, fuck off. Anyways, the start of this series didn't need a whole lot of changing. The things I changed were to set up some bigger changes throughout the rest of the series because everything past this is what really needs fixed. And that's it for this video. That's your preview of my rewrite of my Pride. I will eventually be posting a longer video going over my rewrite ideas for the whole series. I just wanted to kind of throw this out there to see how people liked it. As I work on the full video, which is going to be God knows how long, I might end up going back and changing things from my episode 1 rewrite. If I don't, I'll have a timestamp up so you can skip right to episode 2 because I will have episode 1 in the longer video. Duh. I'm going to have to put some serious work to rewrite the whole of season 1. Honestly, I might end up adding more episodes in my rewrite just to make everything work because there was not enough time to flesh out so many of the plot points in 10 goddamn episodes. Who knows? I sure don't. It's probably going to take me a while to actually finish my rewrite of this series. I've got to rework so much. This series is a mess, guys. I see the vision, but it was just so poorly executed, it makes me very upset. I hope you enjoyed this. I had to rework episode 1 so many times, it's ridiculous. But thank you for watching and listening to my insane rambles. If you like my content and want to support me, check out my Ko-fi, Patreon, and Threadless, where I sell shit. Check out all my other social medias as well. I have DeviantArt, Blue Sky, Instagram, Wattpad, Unveil, and Artfight. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you are new. I'm Yuji, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.